of avoiding the low profile and combating this stupidity and this insanity. And they won through.
The Irish flag has flown at Celtic Park in some shape or form from the very beginning of the club. And some of the early pictures of the club, you can see that there's only one flag flying, and it's the Irish flag.
The national flag that flies over Celtic Park, are you happy with that?
I'm delighted with it, you know, that I fail to understand how anybody could object to a flag which represents the country of the people who founded the club. I think it's brilliant.
I think it should fly at Celtic Park. I mean, that's the tradition of the football club. You know, the tradition of the football club, you know, is Irish. There's a lot of Irish immigrants went to Glasgow, you know, and helped form the football club. And, no, it's the heritage of Celtic Football Club.
Come the late 40s, early 50s, it was beginning to show wear and it was a bit tattered. And McGrory couldn't put his hands on an Irish flag anywhere in Glasgow in the west of Scotland. And he turned to Eamon de Valera, the then Taoiseach. And de Valera presented Celtic with a tricolour.
Even Eamon de Valera, the Prime Minister of our little nation, recognised the contribution that Celtic were making to Irish culture.
If it's ever taken down from its flagpole, it's a day that Celtic would have changed. It signifies the birth of the club. It signifies the importance that the people that founded the club put on it, and it's a very big part of what the supporters believe Celtic are and what it should be. It should never be taken down from the mast at Celtic Park.
The famous green and white hoops of Celtic were to be worn famously by Belfast Celtic, one of the best football clubs ever in the country of Ireland. They had a huge following, and the Irish nationalist following was for mostly Celtic. Celtic Park was the name of the ground, and a very famous Liverpool goalkeeper once upon a time, Alicia Scott, was the goalkeeper there. Alas, Celtic's great run as a senior football club in the Irish League came tragically to an end on St Stephen's Day 1948. Famous jersey, of course, the Celtic jersey, and in Ireland we're familiar with the one in Belfast, which was also Celtic, Belfast Celtic. How aware were you, and are you, of Belfast Celtic?
I've been aware of Belfast Celtic for a long time, and I was aware of the demise of Belfast Celtic to a degree. I then read Mr. Coyle's book, which gave you an insight not just to Belfast Celtic and what they were about and how the demise did come to happen, but it's also a good social history of the times in Belfast through those years and how difficult it was for that side of the community.
I always thought it was part of the same club at one time when I was growing up, because I mean, the first score that we would look for would be from the Irish League would be Belfast Celtic.
That lamentable day in 1948 when they played Linfield on St Stephen's Day, a match which is destined to be recalled among the most profound in the history of Irish football. One of the saddest days in Irish football, of course, when Jimmy Jones, the great Jimmy Jones, the great, very, very good Celtic centre-forward, was involved, unwittingly involved, in the fracas which developed during the match, after the match, and the crowds rushed the field. Jimmy Jones, a name that identified Celtic for so many people, not just in Ireland but beyond. Jimmy Jones had his leg broken.
I didn't think that I was in any danger whenever the whole crowd came on, mostly from the Span Cop end. And I did then see that there was a bit of aggression towards me, and the policemen had been standing around the ground during the match, around on the running track, and I thought that probably was still there, and I thought that was my best means of protection. So I headed over towards, but the police had all moved down to the players' entrance and they were all lined up there, and I tried to run down the track, the running track, but the crowd just seemed to come over and somebody pushed me, and I went over onto the terrace and got up on the terrace and started to run down the terrace, and then somebody kicked me, quite a violent kick, and then another fella, he jumped off the wall onto my leg, and I never thought if it had been broken. I knew it was very painful, but I had fallen at the time, and I got up for the run on and to try and get into the dressing room, and it was just like a piece of rubber. It just wasn't supporting any weight at all.
My father, being a Donegal man, used to get the I mean, the Irish papers that come into our house at that time would be the Derry Journal and the Irish Democrat. And so we were more aware of all the political things that were going on in Ireland, you know, which were largely ignored in the Scottish press and the British press at that particular time, which was unfortunate because a lot of that, when the Troubles did come about, it was because a lot of people were in absolute ignorance. They didn't know, didn't realise that not everybody had a vote and things like that. You know, we did. But we were quite conscious that Belfast Celtic was our team.
Given the heavily pronounced Scottish connection with Belfast Celtic, it is faintly ironic to say that one of Belfast Celtic's greatest days was during their American tour in the late 40s, when they encountered a Scotland team which was also on tour at that particular time. Scotland had gone through the whole tour unbeaten until they met Belfast Celtic.
2 or 3 years ago, some of the surviving members of Belfast Celtic came to Celtic Park and received a fantastic welcome from the crowd. Fine, the young people probably don't know much about it, but certainly ones as old as me certainly do and understand the connection between the two clubs.
If you followed Belfast Celtic, you had a link to Celtic Football Club in Glasgow. Now, with the demise of Belfast Celtic in the early 50s, I think it was, most of those people would have switched their allegiance directly to Celtic in Glasgow, because there was no alternative club in the north that they could sort of align themselves to. There was no such thing as another nationalist club. So, you know, Celtic became the direct connection. And of course, you had the great player, Charlie Tully, who played for Belfast Celtic, who was legendary at Celtic Football Club in Glasgow also.
Before George Best left Belfast, before any of the overhyped and overpaid superstars, there was a man called Charles Patrick Tully. Well, footballers knew him and football people knew him as just Charlie Tully. I was nearly going to say plain Charlie Tully. He was far from that. He was a genius with the ball at his feet. He was the first of the superstars of the Glasgow scene, and how they loved him. You know what? They named ice creams and cocktails after him. And there was a period in Scotland when it was really Tully mania.
Who's that boy out on the wing? The one in green and white. The boys in blue can't catch him, though they try with all their might. That nimble son of Erin, with all the football guile. It's Charles Patrick Tully, putting on the style. Piling on the agony, putting on the style. And a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, scoring all the while. He'd never seen such football, he travelled many a mile, as watching Glasgow Celtic.
Billy, this is not so much a question as a hint. I'll just name 2 words. Charlie Tully.
Charles Patrick Tully. What a man. You know, Jimmy, life's wonderful. Most people are delighted because they get to meet their heroes, maybe get an autograph from them. I didn't get the autograph, or I didn't get to meet them. I got to play with them. And Charlie Tully was my big, big hero when I was a kid.
Charlie was a character. I mean, I've been to Celtic Park and watched Charlie sitting on the ball and inviting defenders to come and try and win it off him.
During a game?
During a game, yep. And one day at Brockville, playing against Falkirk, Charlie took a corner kick, knocked into the back of the net. The referee made him retake it, and he'd done exactly the same again.
So 1 corner, 2 goals.
1 corner, 2 goals. And he did it. He scored again in an international game against England, where he scored both and all that, and again he scored directly from a corner. He was the original football entertainer.
By now, Tully is marked as the star of the match, and you can see why as he gives Ramsey the runaround.
He was an imp. He was a rogue, but he was the most magnificent player you could ever believe. His skill, his ball control was fabulous. He could take people on. It was absolutely wonderful, and he was a great character. I mean, he was a storyteller, Charlie. He made half of the stories up, but nevertheless, they were really entertaining and interesting.
What was the story about the tax that you had?
On one occasion, he is alleged to have been filing his tax form, and he claimed relief for 10 dependents, all in Celtic's team. The ironic thing about Charlie Tully was that he was born on the 12th of July, and all what the connotations that has for Linfield and Rangers. And he never played as well